Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us today for our Masters in Marketing webinar. So my name is Lucy Welch. I'm a Student Enquiries Advisor, so you may recognise my name if we've spoken over the phone or via email before. So just to give you a bit more information about this webinar, as an attendee, your mic and videos have been turned off, and so you'll just need to interact with us using the chat and Q&A sections. And so we think that to get the most out of the webinar, you wait to ask your questions at the end and ask those questions via the Q&A section on the right-hand side of your screen. And if you see another question that someone else has asked and you think that's particularly relevant, or you'd like to be answered more imminently, you can upvote their question and that will jump to the top of the queue to be answered. So we'll also be monitoring the chat section throughout, so do feel free to pop a quick note in there as well. So we will also be sending around a recording of this webinar in a few days' time, so do keep an eye on your inbox. And with that said, I'll just pass over to Dr. Davies to get started with the webinar.
Hello there, good afternoon. This is Kerry Davis. I'm the course director for the Masters in Marketing, and I'd like to welcome you to the webinar. Sorry, we're slightly late. There's a small technical hitch with the microphone. So we're here to discuss the Masters. As has been said, I'd expect it to take about 25 minutes maybe to go through the slides, and then we can take questions at the end. What I'm going to do as part of the structure is give you a brief introduction to the university, talk about the sort of MSc in marketing, issues around what we teach and how we teach it, and then come back and talk about some of the information that you might need about the practicalities of coming to Stirling, the entry requirements, cost of living, and so on. And just to reiterate the point that's already been made about being able to ask questions through the chat mechanism. So if we deal with the first part, you should know this by now, but Stirling's in Scotland, in the UK, up in the north. It's a small but very historic city. We have the second prettiest castle in Scotland. Some would say the most pretty. It's a fairly small town. It's city. It's very good to get around, very easy to get around. You have a lot of benefits. We'll come back to some of them, but while the map is up, I'll just state that we're halfway between the major cities of Glasgow and Edinburgh. They're about 40 kilometres an hour by rail or car from Stirling. So you get the benefits of living somewhere that's quite peaceful and quiet, but you also have big city life on your doorstep if you want it. The university has just celebrated its 50th year. We've got, again, in keeping with the city, we're a relatively small university, about 14,000 students, of which about 4,000 are postgraduates. It has some advantages that even if you don't know people's names, by the end of the year, you would know a lot of the faces. You've got a lot of opportunities to join in and do things. 1,500 staff, about 20%, a bit over 20% of our students come from overseas, and we reckon on any year about 120 nationalities are on campus. So again, we're very open, and one of the things that we'll talk about with the MSc is that we try to use that sort of international focus as part of the MSc, moves it to our benefits. The university has performed well in a number of the sort of rankings that we get in the UK. In terms of the most recent International Student Barometer, we were third in for overall student satisfaction. We've been first in terms of welcoming international students, getting you in, getting you settled into Stirling, and that's not just the university, that is the city as well. People here are very aware of the benefits of having students here. We'll come back to this one with some pictures later, but we're first in Scotland and in the UK for the environment of the campus, both how it looks, how pretty the place is, but also for safety, because we're not, if you like, based in the middle of a city. It's a very safe environment generally for people, both staff and students. Very good in terms of the quality of the teaching, the staff, and I say here now that for the MSc, and I think it probably applies to most of the MScs at Stirling, the lecturers, most of the lecturers that you're going to get, if not all of them, will be researchers. It will be our professors, our top staff. You will be taught by the people who we're very proud of on the research side as well. Lots of feedback in terms of the way in which we perform and how we give you feedback. We're known as the Scotland's University of Sport. So they're very good sports facilities, although actually I think as a spoiler, I should say they're knocking some of them down to replace them in the next year, but I'm sure that they will find ways around that. We've got very strong links into a range of different things going on. The division itself, marketing and retail division, which houses the degree. We've just, in the most recent Complete University Guide, as a subject, we were second in Scotland for marketing, 9th in the United Kingdom. Our focus, our research focus, which we bring into our teaching, we're very well known around the world for retail, for a focus on consumers and consumption markets, and issues also around sports marketing. So these are things that are important to us and things that we therefore bring into our teaching, and it's areas that students, when they're doing their own research as part of their dissertations, often tap into that knowledge and use that as part of what they're going to do. So if I talk now about the degree itself first, and it's worth, I think, starting before we look at it, just to talk about the benefits. We are we call it a conversion course in the sense that we would welcome any students who've studied marketing, but many of the students who come have studied a little bit of marketing, but it hasn't been their main degree. So it's people coming in with other backgrounds, other degrees, who are looking to specialize now in marketing. And so what we try and do is to develop a culture of learning to learn. We're trying to help you see how you can understand some of the theory that we have, the current business practices around marketing, and then use that as a mechanism for seeing how you would continue to learn once you leave us, because that's what we want, is that you will develop in your jobs, in your employment as you go through, but that you will have a very solid foundation of knowledge of marketing that you can use it. To do this, we try to blend theory and practice. If you hate the word groups, then we may well not be the degree for you. We use a lot of group work to get people to see how they would take marketing ideas, marketing theory, and put them into practice with practical issues. But it's also part of our belief that marketing is, most of the profession is about creating a group. It's being able to work in a group. And if you can't do that, really be able to develop in many parts of the industry. We use simulations. So in the first semester, in the first couple of months, we run, for example, a marketing strategy simulation. I call this risk-free because it's potentially possible to lose $1 million in the simulation, but you don't actually do anything. You can take some risks. In the second semester, in the spring, you actually work for an external client. You are given money, a budget by that person. So it's a practical marketing challenge. And as I say, what we're trying to do is to move you from a situation in which you know a little bit and then get you to see how you can use that information to apply it to practical issues for real people. We'll come back and talk about the different pathways, but we do try and show as well, in terms of the degree you go out with, that you've had slightly different interests. So not everybody needs to go out with quite the same degree. And the fourth element, and this is something that's really important because it runs through everything on this page, and also in terms of what I'll talk about in a minute for the degree, this idea of brand me. That's our statement to you, that you're not just learning about marketing in general or how a company markets, you're learning practically yourself how to market yourself. What is my brand? What's important to me? How would I sell myself? So that we're going to help you to explore this personal brand, to take the marketing ideas, marketing theories, and to put them into your development as a person and your development as a marketing professional. So how do we do that? Oh, sorry, we've got a slide there. Class profile in recent years. This year we have 54 students on the program, on the course, mix of people coming from, of course, Europe, UK, from North America, Middle East, and then from various parts. In recent years, we've had students from places like Kazakhstan, obviously China, Vietnam, Thailand, India, and so on, and students from Africa, from places like Ghana. So in looking back over the last 3 or 4 years, in any year, there's been at least 11 different nationalities represented. And as I say, this is something that we welcome because it gives us an opportunity to learn from you about marketing and consumer differences in your countries, but it also allows you to learn from each other and see some of the issues that would come up in a marketing job. Now then, in terms of the course, this is as you're probably aware, it's a 1-year course. We start on something like the 10th of September, I think it is, this year, and we will run through to the 31st of August 2019. Stirling splits this into 3 blocks. The semester system, the first semester will run from September to December. And just to be clear that we would expect you to be on campus, around campus, for the first 9 months at least of this program. So the first 4 months, September to December, there's a Flying Start leadership program in the first 2 weeks, and I'll come to that in a minute. There's another slide to follow this. But in the first semester, we deal with the basics of marketing, either getting you revision if you've studied some marketing in the past, or introducing you to some of these issues as we go along. And we teach you in three modules. And it's possibly, again, important to explain to you that under our system, the degree of MSc is 180 postgraduate credits. We aim at the end of the first semester that you will have completed 60 credits. And so each of these 3 modules is worth 20 credits. They're equally weighted in that way. So responsible marketing management is about the basics of marketing. What is marketing? How do we think about marketing? And also talking about some of the issues about responsible marketing management, about ethics, about social marketing, and so on, and about the practice of marketing. And this module is the one in particular that starts you on the process of brand me and thinking about your personal brand. We have a very different level of looking at strategic marketing. How do we use marketing within a business? How do we take marketing and see how it will lead to business outcomes? Businesses, or organizations, perhaps more, I should say more carefully, because this isn't just about marketing for profit. Marketing can be used by the army, marketing can be used by charities, a whole range of other organizations. But your strategy has to do certain things. You're spending money to achieve an outcome. How do you decide that? And here, as I said earlier, we use a computer-based simulation, MarkStrat. We also try to get you to see how your goals can be delivered through good teamwork, through understanding how everybody works and can put an effort into this particular outcome, this plan that you will produce. And the third module is looking at marketing communications and the consumer, basically understanding how consumer behavior, thinking about what consumers are looking for, and how do you communicate the ideas to you. 3 modules. If you complete all 3 of those modules, you have 60 credits. And again, this just is as a bit of, some people worry about, well, what if I don't complete? We won't expect to lose you, but should you get to the end of this program, you have the certificate, the postgraduate certificate. No one can take that away from you, and you can use that elsewhere if you needed to, but you have something to show for the first 4 months. I said I'd come back to the Flying Start Leadership Program, and this is something that happens in the first 2 weeks in September. It's part of your arrival package in the Stirling Management School. It is something that all of our MSCs, our master's students, have to take part in. So it's the first 2 weeks. It's a set of activities that deal with public speaking, we deal with thinking about networking, dealing with others, dealing with different cultures. The idea is that it will start you thinking about professional development across your degree. Some of your time you will be with marketing students, some of your time you will be spent with students from other parts of the school. So you'll be with economists, accountants, human resource people, and so on. It's a great way of mixing, it's a great way of doing things. And as you can see, there are some physical challenges, there are some group challenges, there's public speaking, and so on. What marketing does as well in part of this, in this Flying Start, is that we have a one-day program we call Blue Sky, which is focused on personal development. You will complete a profile which ends up in this little circular thing at the bottom, which gives you an idea of where you sit psychologically, if I can put it that way, personally, how you feel about risk, how you feel about talking to others, how quickly you're willing to make decisions. There's no right or wrong answer to this. The key thing is for you to understand how you feel, but also others feel. And in the second of our photos, we've got some of this year's MSc students trying to work out a campaign, an advertising campaign, for a particular personality type, a type that is very different to them. So it's trying to understand other people and how they would do things. It's also worth saying that, Flying Start, the Blue Sky program, a lot of what we do, don't know why that went backwards then, a lot of what we do is aiming at completion rates. We want you all to finish. If you work hard, that you should complete. And the aim here is not just to feed you with information, it's to feed you with knowledge that will help you develop and help you go forward yourselves. So that takes us to December. We come back in the middle of January for the second semester, which runs January to May. Again, we have taught materials. We also have, and I'll come back to these in red, the research methods sections. I'll come back to those in a minute. Within the teaching that take place in second semester, we have a core module which everybody takes, marketing management applications. This is something where, having done the SAFE, if I can call it that, marketing simulation in the autumn, you're now being asked to deal with a live client. You're being asked to deal with a local organization. They come to us, they give us a problem, and we set groups of students to try to solve that problem for them. So again, it's developing your research skills. What is the problem? How can we think about it? What research would we do to learn, to get new knowledge? And then how do we present this back to the client? You have to write a report, you have to do a group presentation to the client. The client has given you money, so you have to make sure that you satisfy the client. It's a very stressful couple of weeks when we get to that stage, but also intensely rewarding because of the way in which it's something real, it's something that you have done. And alongside that, you would do 4 10-credit modules. You get a choice here that runs across. When, again, just to state at the bottom, it's another 60 credits. So when we get into the end of May, if you complete those, you now have the postgraduate diploma. Again, we can't take that away from you. Now, if we look at the modules, it gets a little bit more complicated. The modules are given on the left here. There are 7 of them currently: brand marketing, retail marketing, sport marketing, multi-channel, digital marketing, supply chain, and social. We expect to have an extra module come spring 2019 because of a new member of staff who's coming in, but I can't say what that is at the moment, but that will be our hope. But at the very least, you will have 7 electives to choose from. And this is partly because of pressure from students, what we did a couple of years ago is that we've allowed a couple of pathways. So if you wish to go out with just the MSc in marketing and that's it, you have a full choice from the 7 electives. If you want to show that you specialized in brand or in retail, then There are 2 modules in each of these that you must take. For brand management, you have to take the brand marketing and the digital marketing electives. For the retail, you must take retail marketing and the supply chain modules, and then you have a choice of 2 other electives to go with it. This choice is made pretty much at the end. So if you've taken the right modules, you don't have to decide on your pathway to the end. But some of the students like the fact that when they're showing a degree to a potential employer, that this has their biggest interest in the title. So this is a possibility for you. Again, something that students like, and again, this perhaps shows our approach to things. Just to say briefly about the assessment, we have a range of different assessments that you will do. We're not just here about examinations. We're not just about written reports. These may change, I have to say that, but this is the current version of assessments. For brand marketing, it is a group presentation that will be marked by 2 members of staff. There is an examination for retail marketing. Multi-channel and digital have individual assignments, and sport marketing and the supply chain and social marketing all have group assignments. PGA for us means peer group assessment. We're very aware one of the reasons people don't like groups is because they feel that they will do the work and someone else will get the benefit. We use a variety of ways of assessing people's the amount of effort that students have put into the groups, and we will mark people up or down if they have done all of the work, most of the work, excellent work, or if they've done none of the work. So we have ways here of trying to deal with group dynamics. But most of our groups work very well. And again, it's great practice as to how you work these things out and how you will deal with things. If I go back to the red parts, in the summer, we do a dissertation. And to prepare you for the dissertation, we have 2 weeks of research methods in the semester 2. In the first week, we introduce our research expectations. In week 14, the second part, we deal with specific quantitative and qualitative research methods in marketing. And in between, we ask you to work on your topics. So you're not just thrown in at the end of May. You have several weeks to think about a topic that you want to study. You discuss these in small groups. It then leads into a poster session because, again, we're interested in different ways of getting you to show your marketing knowledge. So these are things where students will put together a project. They'll have to use images, a few words. They talk about the methodology, how they plan to do the study, and we put them up on boards. And you have to defend your topic. You defend it to some academics. You also defend it to other students. And this is good because, again, it's about communications. Of people will comment on your poster, your ideas, and you get new ways of thinking about the problem. And many people find that they get a lot from this in terms of developing their research ideas. You would also have to submit a written research proposal around this. So again, this is going on alongside this development of you and your ideas through the semester and your skills. And then for the summer, June to August, our knowledge management and practice module, we could call it a dissertation if you like. There is a written piece. If those of you who've done a dissertation style piece will recognize this, at least 12,000 words as a limit normally, but we have 2 different routes through it. We have an individual route, which is a very standard style of academic, theory-focused piece of research done by one person. I've called it here outcome or personality derived. Outcome because some of the students do this because they want to go on and do a PhD, they would like to do or go to another piece of postgraduate study, and therefore they need to show that they can work at this level. Some students do it because they've had enough of group work. I'll be very honest about that. They just want to work on their own. So the personality says, I'm just doing this myself. But some of the students like to work in a group. It continues on the theme, and they will research a topic. It's still research-led, but it's perhaps more of a managerial style. It's dealing with a particular sort of problem. And so you have the 2 routes. We deal with them equally. we see them as equally valid. And you get to choose that in the in the spring semester as to which route you'd like to go down. You also have to write a reflective piece at this stage also, which talks about what you think you've learned and how you've learned and what you would do differently next time, if you like. You complete it, 180 credits, you have your MSc. And, you know, we would also, I think, emphasize here this idea of the feedback on the teaching. There are different ways in which we get the feedback, but I wanted to put this in. At the bottom is a quote from one of our graduates talking about this idea of that people listen to you, they listen to your comments, they listen to your opinions. Sometimes we can't change things, but we want people to be able to voice their opinions, to give us feedback. And if we can, and there are things that we do need to change, we will change them. We very much value this information. I wanted to show the outcome, the students. Oddly enough, I had two main photos and they were completely different. In the end, I decided to put them both in. We have, that is me, by the way, in the red on the left-hand side, but we had a group of very sober students being a graduation photograph, and then another bunch who wished to show their enthusiasm, their joy at having completed their MSc. That, we would hope, would be any of our 2018 graduates in November 2019, when the graduation ceremony. To go back to the university, as I said earlier, we've been voted very highly best for the campus environment. It's a very pretty campus, shows it here. It doesn't always, the sun isn't always shining, but shows the evolution of it across the year with different colors and different things, but also because it's on the edge of the city. It's a safe place to walk around, a safe place to sunbathe. It's a really nice environment and place to be. In terms of living in Stirling, again, it's a small city, it's very safe, affordable accommodation, lots of students, there's lots of student-centered activities going on, lots of things also, of course, going on campus. And it's very much what you make of it. If you join in or you help to create that atmosphere, you get an awful lot from it. You really can help with the community feel of Stirling through the activities that you do. Living costs, these are indicative. Again, I won't go through all of them. This is something you can have a look at maybe later, but the indicative costs here are between about £170 to £210 a week, including accommodation. But you know, you need to have a look at it. This is to do with living in somewhere that's a university hall of residence and using a bus and so on. How you decide to travel will affect this, where you decide to live will affect it. But it gives you an idea of the sorts of breakdowns across the year, obviously on top of your fees. In terms of the facilities, the university, and again, this is something that perhaps doesn't always come across. Obviously, we've got a very good library, you've got study zones and things. One thing that I think does surprise some students is that if you've been used to studying in a large city, is just how open the university is. It says here the study zone is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Most of the university is open 24/7, 365 days of the year, so that there will be computing labs available any day of the year. The library is open 24 hours a day towards exam periods, for example. It's very open feel, which means it's great again for having student meetings, for societies, associations. They meet on campus. There are always people around. It's very vibrant in that way. And in terms of other facilities, again, many of you will have had this sort of thing, the virtual learning environment, the place where you receive your modules, you receive a lot of your teaching, things that are provided to you online, which both on your computer, but also on your tablet or your phone. And we do things like, again, for postgraduates, it's a little bit different to undergraduates, but many of our lectures will be recorded. They will then be available to you after the event as well. So if you want to go back and listen or revise or understand what somebody was saying. You're not just getting the paper notes, but you're also having the audio note recordings of what was being said in class. I say, because postgraduates, one of the things we do with you is it's much more interactive. We talk and take questions. Sometimes that doesn't work very well audio, but if we can, we will provide it to you. The entry requirements, again, this is taken off the website, but it's a minimum of a second-class honours degree. We do also look, and certainly for things like the MSc Marketing, very keen to take into account significant levels of work experience. So if people have gone out with a lower class degree but have had 5 or 6 years working, then we would look at that very seriously, because that's a great thing to bring in, that experience to share with others as well on the course. The language proficiency is an overall IELTS score of 6.0, but with a minimum of 5.5 in all bands. And again, be realistic about this. We're teaching in English and there's a lot of discussion that goes on in English. So you do need a certain minimum level of this, particularly in things like listening, to get the most out of the course. But that's our posted score. There are ways of improving that. Our partner on campus run a variety of pre-sessional courses over the summer. There's a 12-week course which is estimated to raise the IELTS score by 1 point, then a 6-week course to raise it by 0.5. Those are both for students who've been given conditional offers based on their current English qualifications. Or there is a 3-week pre-sessional course for those who have an unconditional offer, but who would like to improve or just practice their English a bit more before they start their studies. And we also have English for Academic Studies that takes place during semester. And again, depending upon your knowledge, we would often encourage international students to go along to these, because they try to deal not just with English, but with the sorts of words and concepts that would come up in business and in marketing. So it's a way of easing your way into this, and there are application codes are shown, addresses shown here on this slide. Funding opportunities, there is I believe a handout available to you from the handout tab at the top currently, but there are a variety of, this is for scholarships and accommodation. There's a number of opportunities available. I think we're getting quite late in the day for those now for 2018-19, but it's still worth having a look at it if you haven't done that already. And a couple of slides that you may need to go back and look at in your own leisure, because they're quite lengthy, but a couple of comments from two of our students. I think one of the reasons they're here is that it's talking very much about the personal development issues. As Lindsay Howman says, it's not just about marketing theory, but it's about applying that to the workplace and about improving the professional skill set for the workplace. They're both talking about the environment of the campus, they're talking about the environment with the staff, they talk about the way in which students learn from each other and this whole way of trying to do things and across cultures. So that, I think, is a key takeaway for me, that we really feel that that's important to you. Have a read of these if you can when you get the slides later. We do, in addition, as part of this idea, the management school, the university has its own career development centres, a whole range of things that can be seen. But the management school has a dedicated employability manager. And again, this is the sort of thing where individual students can talk to her about it. They bring skills. It's a great resource, we find, again, for students. And so finally, therefore, what do you get from it? Well, we have, the course has been running, it'll be 25 years this autumn that this course has been running. So students have had a chance, our graduates have had a chance to go on and build careers around the world. a range of different things, too many to mention. We've included a few of the names here. I was impressed. Only recently we had a note back to say that there's one of our students is working for the United Nations in quite a high sort of marketing fundraising role, for example. We're rated highly for graduate employability in terms of people getting jobs within 6 months of graduating. That depends a bit on where you go back to in the world, and what you're looking for, but it's a good record. And we have achieved very good excellence awards for employability. So that's quite a lot to take in. I understand that. We've tried to cover the sort of not just what we do, but how we do it, what we think you should get from it, which is really marketing knowledge, marketing understanding, but also a very good feel for yourself, what you're capable of doing, and the areas you're good at, and maybe also the areas that you need to develop in order to make yourself into a really great marketing professional. So I would now hand it back to ask if you have any questions for me or for the others at my end who are listening in. I feel honoured that I hope that I have answered all the questions. So there are people still there. I'm just going to ask my colleagues if there is anything obvious that I missed, in case there's anything else we would like to add while we wait for questions. Oh, the professional accreditation. Yes, that is a good point. I think I slipped past a bit too quickly that we are accredited. It's a program. The MSc is accredited by the Chartered Institute of Marketing as against their graduate entrance programs. And what that means is that the Chartered Institute of Marketing is one of the largest professional bodies in the world. It ranks after the American Marketing Association, but it is one that's very well known in Europe and is increasingly well known in other parts of the world. And this is a professional marketer. So this is for people who want to have a chartered thing after their name, so that and to taking our program gets you accelerated. You have to take some modules with the CIM, but some of our modules will count against their qualifications. So it's something quite useful if you want to do it. It gives you an accelerated chance, and it also gives you various types of experience that is very useful, because again, the Chartered Institute of Marketing is very keen on professional practice, not just theory, but on the practice elements, and we help you out with that. So, Jaya's question, I'm looking at a colleague here, because Jaya's question was about the career or job opportunity for international students. Is it difficult to get sponsorship for a work visa? I presume that's for a work visa in the UK. Yes, I don't know the answer to that because I'm not done. Yeah, one of my colleagues will address that question, because that's a very specific one in terms of some of the stuff we have to deal with visas. Employability, Melissa's question is about the figure of employability. Does it include non-professional employment? Yes, I believe it will. It is not necessarily in terms of employment within the area of your study. These are surveys that are carried out at a UK level, not by us, and it is just about who has gone into employability. I would say that there are instances also where students go into things that use their graduate qualifications but not directly marketing. So there are, again, that figure can be used in a variety of different ways. Again, other colleagues may have other things that the careers. What for that one? Sorry, I'm just being reminded as well that of my comment earlier that we do have the careers service support is quite heavy here in terms of being able to help people to get into their preferred areas. The careers people do a lot of work in terms of things like preparation of a CV, a curriculum vitae, how you present that, because you may want to present it in slightly different ways depending upon the type of job you're looking for. They also help again with things like presentation skills, and increasingly in certain parts of the world where you have online interviews or online tests, there are various ways here that we can help you to practice those, which will also help mock interviews as well, that will help you to go for jobs of a certain type. I hope that answers that one. Alcibiades is asking about 6 years since graduated, what's to adjust again to the marketing courses? Should you make a preparation? That's a tricky question in that I don't think it's an adjustment to the marketing course, but it may be an adjustment back into university life, if I can put it that way, in terms of having to write in a particular way. My guess is if you've been working in a business field, if you've been writing reports, dealing with people, it shouldn't really mean that much adjustment. Because those are many of the skills that we would be expecting you to do. However, there are some sort of preliminary reading lists that will be available later in the summer on through the website that could help you prepare for the course in terms of some of the ways that we might do things, and the sorts of outcomes that would be expected. Really is that in 6 years, the marketing has changed a fair bit in terms of the digital. So, but if you work in those areas, if you use computers and so on, we can deal with the rest of it when we get there. Yeah. Okay. Oh. Okay. Working as an accountant. Sorry, Alcibiades, working as an accountant. Yeah, I would have thought that you wouldn't really shouldn't have a problem in terms of the sorts of things that we would do. But as I say, you can have a look at the reading list and maybe think if there's anything else that we could send. Kevin, is the employability only counted for UK companies or any Asian companies partners with Stirling? There's, I think, two parts to the question there. My understanding is that the employability survey counts any of our students, would go out to all of our graduating students wherever they are in the world. So that employability is in terms of whether they are in Hong Kong or in Seattle or in Stirling, it doesn't really matter. Asian companies partying with Stirling, I'm not aware that is anything in particular. I mean, there are, through the Alumni Association, and we have a very active Alumni Association, particularly in certain parts of Asia, students who graduate, if they join that, will find that there are lots of contacts and opportunities that might be available to them from graduates, who people from students who graduated some years earlier. I certainly know that I've been involved for a number of years with alumni in Singapore, and there is a very active group there where if people are looking for particular types of employee, then they will look at the alumni early on. So again, it's worth I think knowing that and being aware of some of the other opportunities that come from graduating from Stirling. Yeah. Again, our careers, just being noted as well that our careers service again can advise students on the sorts of Asian opportunities, and there are various databases that you can use to search for opportunities for Asian companies. Okay, I think we've had another note about wrapping up shortly. I think it's probably the last chance if anybody has any other questions. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for attending. I hope that I've answered questions, and I hope that we will see all of you here at Stirling in September. I'll hand you back now to my colleagues who will wrap up the webinar and give you some further information.
Hello everyone. So as Dr. Davies said, thank you very much for attending today. If you do have any further questions, then do feel free to email us in the inquiries team at study@stir.ac.uk. And as I mentioned earlier, we'll be sending around a recording of this webinar, and it will also be available on our YouTube channel as well. So do check that page for updates. So once again, thank you for attending, and we hope to see you all at Stirling in September.